children's learning to read is hugely dependent on experiences that they have before reading instruction, school, or any kind of school experience related to reading starts. Those experiences that the child has with spoken language and with the world that that language refers to are enormously important. I myself am extremely concerned about and focusing more and more of my attention on the differences that we see in children before they even get to school with respect to spoken language. Things like vocabulary and when you know a word, how much you know about the word, and sentence structures and other things. Children are behind with respect to spoken language development, or at least disadvantaged with respect to spoken language development, and therefore their readiness for reading on the first day of school. So it's absolutely essential that we pay attention to children's language development, and that of course means also their development of the knowledge that the language conveys and how it relates to the world. There are these huge individual differences among children in terms of this early learning, and their consequences for reading are clear. They are hard to overcome. They are hard to overcome. There are huge vocabulary differences, and by the time the child gets to school, without enough time there isn't enough time in a classroom to teach the kids all the words they don't know. So once the kid falls behind in these areas, it's actually very challenging to help them catch up. That's where my own research is really focused right now. So all the attention that's being given, I think, in the public consciousness about the importance of talking with your child, the importance of reading to your children, reading with your children, interacting over books, and so on, is absolutely spot on, and is really critically relevant to how they're going to do it with reading and other aspects of school. One of the amazing research findings from just recent history is we've all thought for a long time that reading to children was important, which it is. And we thought, well, it introduces children to reading in this pleasurable way. It's a great experience for the caregiver and the child, and it introduces them to stories, and they begin to understand how books work and all that. No, it does that, but it does a lot more. So if you start, researchers, psychologists, have started to look at the language of children's books. The language of children's books is very different from the language of speech. The first line of any children's books, what's the first line of the Madeline book? In an old house in Paris that was covered with vines lived 12 little girls in 2 straight lines. People don't talk like that. When you systematically actually look at children's books, they have words, concepts, sentence structures, talk about things in the world that children are not going to get from their immediate experience. So one of the added benefits of reading to your child is a kind of language enrichment. You are teaching them words like, well, Eiffel Tower comes to mind, but the salami in the hungry caterpillar, or the vocabulary that's used in children's books is actually not the same as we use in everyday speech. And so when you are reading to your child aloud, you are giving them a kind of speech to learn from that they wouldn't otherwise get. This is an important vehicle for developing their language and their knowledge of the world. And it's also one that we could potentially make better use of to try to close prevent some of these language-related gaps. Maybe children's books could be a really terrific vehicle for them, for doing that.